Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse. And welcome to Midday with Rev Don. And whatever platform you may be watching this program on, if you'd like to take part and interact, you can type your comments into that platform. They'll show up in my chat room, and I will answer or discuss or whatever you would like to do. And thank you very much for joining me. I very much enjoy this time together at midday every day, every weekday. And as you know, yesterday was my 60th birthday, and it was a wonderful day. I started the day with a lovely conversation with my son and grandchildren. Then I spoke with Clan of Kepper Temple from South Africa, which was quite delightful. At midday, we had a gratitude broadcast where I spoke about all the people that I've been grateful for in my life. In the afternoon, we had people here at the house. We also did a chat room through the afternoon. And I want to thank Brenda and Jason and Susan for coming over and spending time with me. We had the final broadcast at 7. We had some delightful offerings. Particularly the Corellizyme commercial, which you may or may not have seen making its way through the internet. It's a beautiful parody of the kind of prescription drug commercials you see on television sometimes, brilliantly done by Mr. ELN, Ebony Nash, Rich Donahue, Cloud the Pagan Rapper, and Lady Aisha. Wonderful job. And it was just a beautiful day in general. I got some lovely presents, including this necklace that I'm wearing from Cosmo, and a number of other things as well. It was just a beautiful day. And hello to Chad in the chat room. Good to see you, Chad. And many people joined the celebration online, including Chad and his lovely wife, Lori, and many other people. And in the evening, we were joined by Belladonna Laveau and Dusty Dion and Byron Ballard and Phoenix Coffin Williams and Chad and Lori Blackman and of course Mary Hawk, who was hosting the evening broadcast. And it was just a lovely evening. Hello, Ebony, in the chat room, and Ebony says, "Lovely necklace." Yes, it is. I'm very grateful to Cosmo for gifting me this beautiful piece, and the other beautiful pieces that he sent as well. Interestingly, when we went to open the gifts, the first one turned out not to be a gift, but it turned out to be this, which is a gift in its own way. The 5 Mystic Secrets Multilingual Edition, available from CorellianPublishing.com. And this is the 5 Mystic Secrets, one of the most sacred writings in the Corellian tradition, the first major exposition of Corellian thought, written by my mother, whose picture is here on the cover and here on the back. It was written under the pseudonym of Elizabeth Greenwood, but of course her actual name was Leveda Lewis Highcorrell, which you see here. And this book contains the 5 Mystic Secrets in English, Spanish, Greek, French, Portuguese, Dutch, Swedish, and German. Not necessarily in that order, but those languages. And it's a handy international reference for the 5 Mystic Secrets. We're terming it a Corellian Rosetta Stone because of all the languages. And of course, the reason for this is that the Corellian tradition is such an international tradition, and so many languages are spoken in the tradition, and this only just begins to deal with them. But these are some of the major languages spoken in the tradition. I found it an interesting adventure getting this book into print because my printer had difficulty with the Greek font. We had to turn the Greek section into pictures in order for them to be able to handle it. And I'm grateful to Sir Edward for suggesting that solution. And it took care of the problem. So we know in the future, if we want to publish something in Greek, we must do it as pictures, as long as we're using this publisher. Um, the other languages were all supported as such. That also tells me if we're using any other substantially non-Latin font, that we'll probably also have to do the same. And we may, in fact, be doing that. Some of our publications over the years, we've had in as many as 19 languages, some of which had very different alphabets. And, this was a fascinating process. And as we prepare for the Parliament of the World's Religions, in only 2 months, we thought we really would like to have this there. And so it's here. If you'd like your own copy, you can find one at CorellianPublishing.com. You can also find many other things there as well. And I highly recommend it to you. I also recommend my Patreon at RevDonLewis.com, where we do lots of interesting things. And we're about to have our first monthly newsletter for the people who are in that tier. And on the 24th, we'll be having our first monthly seminar, which is for people in the seminar tier and also anyone who wishes to buy a ticket, which you can also find at CorellianPublishing.com. The first seminar is going to be on the nature and practice of magic, what it is, how it works, and how to do it. And the second one remains to be seen. We'll see what the next one going forward is. I think they're probably going to focus a little more on psychic skills, at least at the moment, but we will see. And I would like to know what people would like to see in seminars from me. But these are the things that I have been doing, and getting settled in here at the house, still in process. And I have a lot of shipping to take care of. The last couple of days, I've been offering for sale original artwork from the Tarot of Hecate. I have a number of packages to get out today. But if you wanted to support me in some way, buying some of that original artwork would be a wonderful way. They're all listed on my Facebook page. The major arcana are $40. The minor arcana are $25, except for the court cards, which are $30. And obviously, these particular ones will only ever be offered once because they're one of a kind. I probably will go on to offer some more original artwork as we go, just to keep things moving. And so here in Danville, it's been, when we got here for one of the hottest days on record. It was a heat wave, and now today maybe the coldest June 12th on record. It's been an interesting reversal. I'm certain that the fires going on in the north probably have something to do with that. It was interesting when I was talking with South Africa yesterday. They were talking about how cold and rainy it was, because for them it's the middle of winter. But it was cold and rainy here too. It was interesting. But we could do with a little cool after so much warmth. And we certainly benefit from the rain. We had been having a little bit of a drought. So lots of interesting things going on. And so what should we talk about? Does anyone have anything they would like to talk about? I think and Ebony says, Lord knows, if you have anything music related, I would love to check out some of that original artwork. What got you started in art and painting, etc.? My father got me started. I think I was probably around 3 years old, and he encouraged me to start drawing. As with many things, he got me started, but it was not something we could do together because he was too narrow in his view of how to proceed. And he tried, I think, very hard to teach me to draw from sight. But I was 3. That was not going to work. Um, I learned to draw from my imagination, from visualization. But he definitely got me started, and his resources were extraordinarily useful. My father had trained to be a commercial artist in um, the late 1940s, possibly the early 1950s, and he had the full set of books. I think I have one of them today. I wish I had that full set of books. It was an excellent set of books, but I lost them many years ago. But there is at least one that I still have. And he studied with the profession. You know, I do not remember their name, but they were very famous because they advertised across the country by having people copy a drawing and send it into them, and then they'd make their pitch. But it really was a good course. And I learned a tremendous, I learned more from that than from any formal study I ever later engaged in. Not to say I learned nothing from those formal studies, but working myself with those books and other inspirations, some of the earliest books I received were art books. And, I definitely am something of an autodidact. Um, One of the first books, well, the first books on artwork that I received were of two types. There were two very large coffee table books, one of which was the history of Japanese artwork, which was one of the major influences on my style and my taste. The other was the history of Spanish artwork, which played no particular role in either my style or my taste. Um, Although I have a greater appreciation for it now, particularly certain Spanish artists, but it was the Japanese that caught my imagination at the time. The other was a series of museum guidebooks. I don't even know where they came from, although at least one or two came from an actual museum. But I think the others were collected perhaps from yard sales and places where they actually came from other people's travels. But there was a good 15 of them, focusing on famous artists. That was a huge influence on me as well, particularly Botticelli. Of all of them, Botticelli was probably the one that I resonated with the most in those little books. And they were little souvenir books, but they were also very serious examinations of these different artists. There was also one on Giotto that I think had an effect on me. Some on the Renaissance in general. Um, there was certainly a Michelangelo, but I think I'm much more affected by Botticelli than Michelangelo. Although I like Renaissance artwork in general. But for me, it was a form of fun, a form of meditation, although I don't think I knew that at the time because I was still a child. But when I did artwork, I was in my own world, and it was many worlds. Um, and one of the things I used to do, because we had virtually unlimited paper at that time because of my mother's job in publishing, she had great access to paper, is that I would create adventures and draw them one scene at a time. Um, Not quite like an animated movie, but certainly like a storyboard. And that was very good training, I think, for that sort of thing. And certainly good training for artwork because I was constantly doing it over and over again. And it was certainly a great joy in my life. And Ebony says, I feel that way about coloring books. I like to do that for meditational purposes. I'm not good at drawing if it's past anything other than stick figures. And I totally hear that. Um, I also enjoy coloring. A lot of people find coloring to be a good meditation. If you look at a lot of my artwork, and the cover of the book we were just looking at as an example, I do black and white artwork, and then often I later color it. This drawing was a black and white illustration, um, maybe for the First Degree book back in the day, maybe for this book back in the day. But it stayed black and white for a long time, and then I created a color version. And I did that by coloring the black and white artwork. And I quite enjoy that for the same reason. It's meditative. Um, and it's creative, and you know, you go into the zone, and it's a lot of fun. Um, when I was young, I saw a movie that I always took to be a warning of what not to do in life. It's called The Adding Machine. I've talked about it in various contexts. And the protagonist of the story is Mr. Zero. And the idea, I think, behind the story is that Mr. Zero has wasted his life being a cog in the wheel. And even when he dies and goes to the afterlife, which is depicted as an eternal carnival where you can do anything you want, he's not really happy that way. He finally finds a place where he can sit and crunch numbers, which is his passion, until his next incarnation. And the messages don't get caught in this kind of thing. And you know, I have to say that in a lot of ways, I went right ahead and lived that life. Except looking back at this point, I don't know that I agree with the message of the movie. I think that working with pattern, working with the creation of things like artwork and writing and or even working with numbers and so forth, I think these are important things. And I think that they certainly can become confining, but I don't think they inherently are. And hello to Carolyn in the chat room. Good to see you, Carolyn. So I've kind of reassessed the message of the movie, but I still think it's one of the best depictions of the afterlife that I have ever seen. And to elaborate on that for you for just a moment, as though I've not done it many times, but you know, we talk about my transition to Grandfather Don. I guess telling the same story many times is part of that. The portrayal of the afterlife in The Adding Machine is as a carnival with everything you could possibly want available, every activity you could want available, and all you have to do is do it. And people are happy or not happy according to their internal nature. And one of the things that becomes clear is that certain people hear beautiful music in this carnival, constantly playing, and others do not. And the ones who hear the music are the ones who are happy because they're happy inside. The ones who don't hear the music are dissatisfied, even with everything they could possibly want right there. And I think that kind of does describe the afterlife, that everything that you could want is there. And if you've learned the things that this world has to teach you, then you will be happy there. You will not need to return. But if you haven't, you're not going to be ready to settle down there, and you will return, not because anyone forces you to, but because you're drawn back to it. Because here is where we work those things out. So I still think it's a profound movie, but I have somewhat reassessed its view of its protagonist. The thing that I think I would say today, although I have to admit it's been many years since I've seen the movie, but as I recall, Mr. Zero could not have been happier sitting there crunching his numbers. And what does it matter what made him happy? It didn't please some of the other characters, but it wasn't their happiness. So I would say that another message of this movie that even its own characters didn't necessarily get is that we're all where we need to be at the time, and different things bring us happiness. The other interesting thing about The Adding Machine is that another one of the stars is Phyllis Diller, a fascinating person who didn't star in a lot of films, although she had a heck of a career. And you know, on Instagram, I've been following a channel which I want to say is called Impersonating Phyllis. I could be mistaken, but it is run by a Phyllis Diller impersonator. But the majority of the channel are clips of Phyllis Diller herself talking about her philosophy of life, which is very, very deep. and also examples of her comedy and her philosophy of comedy. But in the subject of her philosophy of life, um, she was a great believer in the power of love and um, in the idea that the heavy, difficult things have enough attention. And this was why she loved to make people laugh, to take their mind off of those heavy, difficult things. And I'm very struck by that philosophy. Um, and she was also a great believer in self-care. Those of you who are my age, and in fact, you might have to be my age to remember Phyllis Diller, I don't know. Um, I mean, she has been in spirit for some years, but back in the day, she was a leading comedian and a huge influence on other women in that business. But she started in part because she had um, a face that was not conventionally attractive. And later, she made it a point to have plastic surgery because it became widely available, and she felt, why not? And she became a huge exponent for the idea that if you would be a little happier with a different nose, get a different nose. Embrace the happiness. And I think that was a lot of her message to the world. And Carolyn says she was wonderful. Yes, she was. And hello to Mary in the chat room. Good to see you, Mary. I think that people like Phyllis Diller, who do focus on love and joy and happiness, add a great deal to the world. It's very easy to be concerned with all the big, heavy things. And certainly they merit our concern on occasion, but we can also be swamped by them. And so I think it's good that there are certain people who help us to forget for a few moments. And Ebony says, a lot like how Gilda Radner went about her life with comedy. She really used laughter to help get through the pain of traumas in her life. And yes, absolutely, that's true. And a lot of comedians, and I believe Phyllis Diller talked about this as well. Robin Williams talked about it. I believe Gilda Radner talked about it. Many of them have talked about it, how the vast majority of comedians have a difficult start in life. And this is where they get their humor from. It begins as a defense mechanism that then transforms their life and brings joy to others. And I don't know certainly if that don't know to what extent that's true for all comedians, but I've heard a lot of prominent comedians say it, and it certainly seems to be true. And a lot of the famous comedians certainly seem to have issues they still carry. Some of them resolve them, some of them do not. But it kind of stands to reason that this would be a method of self-healing, a method of because certainly humor and joy are a way of healing others, and so they would heal yourself as well. And I think it's one of the best ways of healing. And I think that so often we forget to do those things for ourselves. And Ebony, I don't know if you heard me talking at the start of the hour about Corellizyme, but that was a brilliant parody that you and Cloud and Aisha did. It was wonderfully done. And speaking of bringing joy and laughter, it definitely did. And the closing disclaimer was one of the best parts. And if you have not seen that, you'll see it, I believe, on our platforms. You can see it on YouTube. It's making the rounds as it should. It was a wonderful birthday gift. And for many years, I've talked about the importance of the arts to the future of the pagan movement. And how if you look at most of the world's great religions, art and music both play a major role. And of course, I should say the visual arts and music, it's all the arts. And Ebony says, we're so happy everyone enjoys that. I had so much fun writing that. it was Cloud's idea to go pharma with it. It was brilliant. You did a great job. Um, but Sir Ebony and and um, and Cloud and in particular are doing so much to advance the musical arts in the Corellian tradition. I'm very proud of that, and they're doing a wonderful job. And Ebony says Aisha was brilliant with the video, and she did great things with Cloud's logo. She absolutely did. And Anna, hello to Anna in the chat room. Good to see you. She says divination is an art, and poetry and crystal ball reading are connected. And yes, this is true. I hope to see as we go forward a lot more focus on music, a lot more focus on visual arts that we can treasure through the generations. And this is one of the things I hope to emphasize in my retirement that I often didn't have the time to emphasize during the 44 years that I was actively working as first priest. But as first priest emeritus, the arts are something I think are greatly deserving of emphasis, including, of course, the divinatory arts. But as pagans, we do tend to focus on those, and we often forget the others. But if you look at society, these are among the things that really hold people together. When people have beautiful things to hold on to and to pass down, they're much more likely to make an effort to stay together and pass them down. When they have music, especially when they've listened to it all their lives, as one does in a religious context, it evokes feelings few other things do. It builds a sense of community few other things do. You know, the only thing I can compare it to secularly might be Christmas music, which everybody gets regardless of their religious background, because it just, particularly in my generation, it would be everywhere. And it definitely was not universally religious. And you know, the argument has been made that the Christmas celebration in the US is actually a secular celebration. And I can get on board with that, but certainly it's true of the music, much of which it might be described as midwinter music or holiday music. But you know, love it or hate it, and people come in both varieties, it does always get a response because so much of it has always been there. And I hope to see us developing that tradition of music for the ages as we go forward. And I think that we are. And these things we often don't think about. So much in our pagan world has a temporary quality because we so rarely have permanent spaces. But that's changing. And I think that that change will be a positive thing. So with that, I see that we've come to the end of our half hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I love this time with you. Thank you, everyone in the chat room, and everyone watching who is not in the chat room. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you. I hope to see you tomorrow. And let us close with our prayer. And Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for the beautiful things in life. And we ask you to help us to appreciate those beautiful things and the things that touch our heart, regardless of what they are. The things that bring us joy need not be the things that bring other people joy. And let us honor those things that bring us joy. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you. We know you are always with us. And from respect, we thank you for your presence. And until next time, may you blessed be. And I thank you for your presence. I love you all. And until next time, may you blessed be.